Let's do a quick run through of partial success in eFlow Projector. Let's sign into the app here. Now I'm going to jump to let's have a look at a quick system with not too much in it. Keep it simple. So let's have a look at this scenario here. So what we've got for each of the flow rules and the flow rule types, freshers, low flow, oversupply, multi-year freshers, we have the concept of partial success tables. So we've got default partial success tables that apply across everything within the scenario, and then within each flow rule, so we'll jump down here and find a flow rule, we can specify the partial success tables for that precise flow rule. So let's just have a look at the top here and have a look at the overall flow rules, so the global settings for these. So the idea of partial success is that we specify the environmental water requirements as needing in the case of freshers, a magnitude, a duration, a count, and an independence criteria for the flow requirements to be met. And when that magnitude is met, so let's say our magnitude that we're shooting for is 100 megs a day. If we hit 100 megs a day, that's great. But what happens if we hit 99 megalitres a day? Is that of zero environmental value? In some cases it might be, because that flow requirement is required to reach over bank and flood a wetland. But otherwise, it might actually have some marginal success associated with it. So let's say here if we have, let's say there's no value until we hit, let's say once we hit 50%, we'll start having some value. So we're hitting 50%, and then maybe let's push this up to 85%. And so once our target hits 85%, then we're achieving 75% of the success we're after. And then if we hit 100, we're meeting 100. So this allows us to represent the partial success from a magnitude perspective, and we can do the same thing from a duration perspective. Well, let's drop that back to nothing, nothing, nothing. Let's say unless we get at least 50% of the duration we're after, we're getting no environmental value. But then from that point, it's going to really bump up. And this intermediate step, wow, we could make that 50 if we wanted, and make that 0. And basically what we're going to do there is nothing, nothing, nothing from the 50, and then from 50 to 100 we've got a linear increase in performance for the duration. It's probably not reasonable. It's probably more like, let's go back to what we had before, 75%, and it's going to give us something like 50% of the value. So when we're at 70% of our target duration, we're saying that's worth 50% of the value. Well, that's still linear, isn't it? Let's make it 30% just to give that graph some shape. So nothing at 50%, then we get to 70% of our target duration. That's going to give us 30% of the value we're after, and then once we hit 100% of our target duration, we're going to hit 100%. So go on, so on and so forth, right? So for count, so if we wanted, we got a linear scale represented here. So if we wanted 10 events and we got 5 events, we'd get a 50% value towards our count score. The same thing here for independence. If we wanted 10 days between our events, but we got 5 days, well, the independence value in our reported outcome would be 50%. So that's as simple as it is with the partial success. So it's really about scaling back from our target value to give us a proportional success rate. So we do this across freshers. So there's 4 components to a freshers flow rule. Low flow, there's 2 components. So it's just a magnitude component and a duration component. The oversupply, it's really just the duration component, because there's not a magnitude, because we're trying to stay below a magnitude component. So it's It's an unbounded problem, so we're just doing partial success on the duration. And then a multi-year fresh, so this is in the case where we want to say have 3 events over a 10-year period, just like a freshers above, but we also say the maximum time between events shouldn't exceed a certain threshold. So it's just like, I'll close this one up, it's just like a freshers type case, but we've got an additional component here about the maximum time between drinks, if you like. We can also specify, so there's a magnitude, duration, count, independence, but there's also a maximum time between events that can also have a partial success associated with it. There you go. That's partial success in eFlow Projector.